The Mirage of Peace, an analytical reflection on peace negotiations in the Iran-Israel-USA conflict. 1. The structural paradox of negotiations. The primary challenge in negotiating peace between these entities is the lack of common ground. Unlike traditional border disputes, this conflict is rooted in existential ideologies and regional hegemony. The logic for Israel, peace, means the total dismantling of Iran's nuclear capabilities and proxy networks, Hezbollah/Hamas. For Iran, peace is conditioned on the full withdrawal of U.S. forces from the Middle East and the recognition of its regional influence. These are mutually exclusive demands, making most peace talks performative rather than substantive. 2. The role of third-party mediators. Qatar, Egypt, and Oman. Nations like Qatar and Oman have acted as vital back-channel communicators. Analysis. These mediators don't necessarily aim for a final peace treaty, but rather for conflict management. Their logic is to prevent a total war by negotiating limited ceasefires or prisoner swaps. However, as long as the core ideological friction remains, these negotiations act only as a, quote, pause button, not a stop button. 3. The zero-sum game mentality. In game theory, this conflict is often viewed as a zero-sum game, where one side's gain is perceived as the other's total loss. The reflection: peace negotiations fail when the participating parties feel that diplomacy is merely a tool for the opponent to regroup and rearm. Israel views Iranian diplomacy as a delaying tactic for nuclear enrichment, while Iran views US-led peace proposals as surrender documents designed to weaken their sovereignty. 4. The shadow of the UN and international law. From the Justice Hermitage perspective, the United Nations' role in these negotiations has been largely marginalized. The critique: the UN Security Council's inability to enforce resolutions due to the veto power of permanent members, USA versus Russia/China, has created a legal vacuum. Peace cannot be negotiated in a system where the judges are also the stakeholders in the conflict. 5. Economic deterrence as a peace driver? One emerging logical trend is that economic ruin might be the only factor forced onto the negotiating table. The logic: neither the US nor China can afford a global depression caused by a closed Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, peace is being pushed not out of moral duty, but out of economic necessity. This is commercial peace, which is inherently fragile because it lacks a foundation of justice or mutual respect. Conclusion: the Justice Hermitage takeaway. True peace requires more than the absence of missiles. It requires the presence of justice. Current negotiations focus on ceasefires, but ignore the root causes of systemic inequality and regional insecurity. Until one law for all is applied to superpowers and regional players alike, peace will remain a tactical maneuver rather than a permanent reality. Lai Shefi?
A silence in the chamber. The polished table cold beneath a sterile light. Dust motes dance over a toppled white night. A zero-sum game of existential fright. Peace, a tactical pause in endless night. Back-channel whispers, managing the blight. Until commerce, not conscience, forces what is right.